Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you saw on the agenda, we began our meeting tonight at 6 with a closed session. That was an hour-long backgrounder on a piece of litigation that has been going on for 25 years, no, longer than, how long? A long time. Uh, but no votes were taken. It was just a briefing. Can I have a motion to seal the minutes? Is there a second from somebody?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Our first order of business in open session is something we actually don't do very frequently. I think the last time we did something like this was perhaps post the Harborside fire. But there was a feeling on the council, and I think among many people in town, that we needed to do something formal and serious to thank everybody from the utility district, from town departments who did such incredible work after that blizzard. When you hear the stories about what those folks did, and bucket trucks and high winds, and to sort of keep the system together, just a thank you at the beginning of a meeting just didn't quite do it. So we do have a proclamation. Millie, thank you so much for your work on this. Mine won't open off of my computer. It's about to review it. Thank you. And it's brief enough and serious enough that I think it ought to be probably read into the record, in my opinion. This is a town council proclamation commending the employees of the Block Island Utility District for their extraordinary service during Blizzard Hernando. Whereas Blizzard Hernando brought severe winter conditions to Block Island, including heavy snowfall, high winds, bitter cold, and perilous travel conditions threatening the safety and well-being of our community and bringing daily life to a standstill. And whereas the employees of the Block Island Utility District worked tirelessly before, during, and after the storm to maintain essential utility services and restore them swiftly whenever disruptions occurred. And whereas these dedicated professionals carried out their duties amid extraordinarily difficult and life-threatening conditions, enduring relentless winds, limited visibility, and sub-zero temperatures, working prolonged hours with little rest. And whereas their efforts required not only technical skill and experience, but also courage, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to the people of Block Island. And whereas the risks undertaken by these individuals to safeguard critical infrastructure and protect public safety were significant and undertaken in the finest tradition of public service. And whereas the town council wishes to formally recognize the outstanding contributions of the employees who rose to meet this challenge, including Jeffrey Wright, Tom Durden, Tom Brown, Evan Carey, Ed Piccolino, Jim Stockman, Dick Martin, Tracy Fredericks, Panos Takajan, Chris Reeves's team, Mike Ernst's team. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the town of New Shoreham Town Council hereby expresses its deepest gratitude and highest commendation to the employees of the Block Island Utility District for their extraordinary service during the blizzard. And be it further proclaimed that their professionalism, bravery, and steadfast dedication ensured the continued safety and resilience of our island community, and that their efforts stand as a powerful example of public service at its very best. So thank you for those here, and for those who are watching, and for those who hopefully will get a copy of this. Can I have a motion to approve this proclamation? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
I think Dick Martin wants to do that.
Good.
I know how difficult time can be, but we live in a beautiful little village. It takes the whole village. And it wasn't just about, please don't just look at it as about, there was a police force, there was a road crew, there was the sewer department. I mean, everybody stuck together. When the police said, stay off the roads, they stayed off the road. They kept it clear for us to get through when we could get through. Apologies to the people that were slow getting on, but I think we got it all back up as fast as we could. And these guys, I was around, I'm the old guy on the team right now. But the young guns, they kicked in and they kicked ass. I'd say it that way because I have never, in the 44 years that I've worked for the power company, seen a strength of people pull together as quickly as they did, they didn't give up. And they wouldn't give up and go, the last occupied house will go and be gone. So I take this as in my heart, and you all, because a lot of times people don't get recognized. And, but I want to say it to the whole village, because we talked to the whole village, it wasn't just stuff. But it was difficult. I've never seen a storm like that hit this island like that so rapidly. And in Merrill Slate's days, he would shut the power off. And under the new regime, we don't care. We know that there's sick people out there, there's elderly people out there, and they need their voice. And their voice is usually hearing from the public, whether it's comments from Jeff or whoever. But we were trying to stay communicating with everyone at the point in time. And I hope that everybody understands that there is not a protocol, but we did the best we could do. And thank you for doing us that.
Terrific.
Yeah.
All right, with that, do we have any public comment this evening? No? Item 4 is our consent agenda. Are there any comments or concerns about anything here?
I have one.
Go.
On the agreement for Mayforth Group,
Yes.
I'm in support of that. What I would like to do is though, request that we put this for review next September, October, so that the contract is ahead of before the service comes in from that end of it. I think particularly this year with some of the legislative items we have, I'm looking forward to their work. But I think the contract itself, if we can do that in September, October, then we do the appointment from that end.
So I think we did that and didn't do their we
We did
appointed
the
them, but
appointment,
didn't, but we didn't do their contract.
Right. So we should, if we can do the,
That
if we can do the
works too,
contract
yeah.
for us, I think it will.
Can we alter, go ahead, Amy.
No, we've got that note for this,
Okay.
this year. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
So do we take this, we still want to approve this, but we want to redo, we want to make sure that
We want to talk about it in November of next year
Yeah.
when we do a
Okay.
legislative wrap up.
Yeah, just make sure, yeah, my comments have nothing, my comments aren't reflective of what we're going through.
Yes.
It's just for future planning.
Sequencing,
Yeah,
yep.
I think you're 100% right. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second,
Second,
all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Boards, commission and committees. Are the canvassers ripe for appointment?
Yes, they are. They are ready.
Terrific. We appreciate them so much. We need a motion for 2 alternates to the Board of Canvassers, Leslie Helterline and Zena Clark. These are for 1-year terms expiring March of 26. All of a sudden, oh, wait a second. To Bill's earlier point, we don't want to be doing, we don't want to be doing this. I'll second that. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Similarly, we have a one full member, Danielle Bates, whose term would expire in March of 2032. Man, does that make me feel old? Wow.
Danielle Bates.
I'll second that. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We have an opening that we have had for quite some time on the Commission on Motor Vehicles for Hire. This would be a non-motor vehicle for hire licensee. A spot on the Old Harbor Task Force, spot on Police Advisory. Two alternate and two full positions on both water and sewer. And two alternates and one full member for the Board of Canvassers. Please, we have a good crowd here tonight. Step up, folks, please. Next, we have a public hearing on some new shellfish ordinances. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing, please? A second, please. A second.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We're now in public hearing. This is to discuss an act on proposed amendments to the New Shoreham General Ordinances, Chapter 9, Marine Activities and Structures, Article 4, Fishing, Division 2, Shellfishing, 9-140, Issuance of Shellfish Licenses, License Categories, Fee, Term, 9-142, Quantities and Restrictions. Amy, are you going to walk us through this, or is George the distinguished chair of the Shellfish Commission who is in attendance this evening?
I'll start with a little introduction, which is a reminder that at the end of last year, the Shellfish Commission brought some requests forward to the council for considering updating their ordinances. We then went back and forth, myself, Nick, the harbor master, the Shellfish Commission representatives, working with that language. And so I want to be clear that what's in front of you tonight is not a final finished product, but the next step of an evolution. I think there's still work that can be done in terms of making this language stronger and more representative of their intentions and how they want to protect the shellfish stock. But we felt it was important to take this next step, get this language codified, which reflects a lot of their practices as we continue to work on new strategies for protecting particularly the scallop population.
So in other words, we should expect more on this in the future, but this codifies existing practice and takes several steps on a mile-long journey here.
I think that's fair to say, but I'll leave it open to
Great.
members of the commission who might want to weigh in.
George? Come up, identify yourself, make sure your green light is bright. Jeepers.
George Davis,
Hi.
400 Seaweed Lane, here as the chair of the Shellfish Commission. I think what we have in front of us is an ordinance that's been revised to reflect our current practices. And it's not that the current practices weren't already approved. They were by the town council. It's just that, and I think you've observed this before, sometimes ordinances aren't gone back to and corrected to align with what's already been approved and how we're operating. And that's what this ordinance does. And it also takes into account additional protections for our bay scallop population, which is certainly a population that is at risk throughout New England and in Rhode Island in particular. So one of the things that you have to do is keep a substantial amount of broodstock in the pond, because that's the essential mechanism for how they create seed, and the seed has to settle and grow. And it's very important that we maintain a large population for it to be self-sustaining. They aren't particularly easy to grow in a hatchery and spawn, and we haven't been doing that here. Fortunately, we've been able to keep the population strong, in part because of the health of our water and also because of the seriousness that harbors and the Shellfish Commission take in enforcing our regulations.
Sure.
That's a big part of it. So I can take any questions, but I think what we have here is something that has probably been overdue, not to anyone's fault, but it's interesting when you go back and you read the actual ordinance and you go, what? I didn't know that was in there or that wasn't in there. Who spends time reading ordinances?
Seems to be the night for that, George.
So anyway, if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them as best I can.
Um, so, I feel like the king of the unfair questions, but are there any changes in this that people would say, what?
The
I didn't think so, but
well, not because we'd already been doing it. So they wouldn't say it because it's new.
right.
You might say, oh, it didn't say that before. That's true. But it's no different than what we've been doing in practice. The limits, the timing, that kind of thing.
Okay, you sign off on, also, if there are any concerns with being presented from the Harbor Master's point of view?
The Harbors Department does not have any issues with this. Katie Cass, my assistant, went through the majority of this and helped write all of that. And I think that got her up to speed on a lot of what was going on with the department. That gave her a better understanding of what we're enforcing. And no, I'm completely supportive of what is in front of you. Like George said, it's what we've been doing in our practice. It's just hasn't been on paper.
All right, make a motion for the proposed amendment to chapter 9 marine activity, dairy structures, fishing, shellfish.
Issuance of shellfish licenses, license categories, fees, the term, quantity and restrictions.
Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Thank
Before
you,
you
George.
go, I think you do a terrific job. And I think you keep shellfish, the shellfish are sort of the sentinel species in a way in that pond, in terms of its health. And I think the focus you bring to that and the work that Kate and her staff all do is really important and extraordinarily well done. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And I have to compliment Kate and Katie in the support of the Harbors Department. We work very, very closely, hand in glove on all of our activities related to shellfish. And we couldn't do it without them because they provide the backbone and some of the staffing to really help us do that.
Great.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, guys. All right, we have to set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 public hearings. Look at us. Millie. The entire Block Island Times is.
I know.
People who think the paper's too thin, we're taking care of that.
We do have a little bit of staggering going on with this one.
Good. So the first one is the lighting standards. Now, for those of you who are here and hear this, I just wanted to make a note that we have a meeting on the 23rd, Monday. That is a joint meeting between a rescheduled meeting between the town council and planning to actually talk about the lighting ordinance. For lay people, how many lumens a light bulb has is surprisingly not my area of expertise. So we thought a conversation that the community that first of all could educate the council, but also that the community could either attend or listen to would be worthwhile. So what's your suggested hearing date for that?
This one is May 5th.
May 5th? All right, the day after FTM. Fantastic. That's perfect. Can I have a motion to set this public hearing for May 5th, please?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. All right, second, set a public hearing date for, this is one of those conforming ordinance changes that we've been making for, I'll say 2 years. It feels longer. The legislature did a comprehensive, I mean, it's under the general heading housing, but it has forced us, I use forced in quotes, it has forced us to update a lot of our ordinances, and we're doing them bit by bit and piece by piece. And this is one of those. What date would you suggest for that one?
This, April 15th.
April 15th?
And Keith, we have, for both, for this one and the next hearing, all those are gonna be heard on the 23rd. We're having like a work session on the 23rd. Yeah, discussed on the 23rd. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. So can I have a motion to set the public hearing date on this one for April 5th? Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thirdly, we have another zoning ordinance. This too, if I recall correctly, is a conformance one, right? Yeah. What's your suggested date for that?
This one's also April 15th,
All right. Can I have a motion to set the April 13th?
15th.
15th? Can I have a motion to set the public hearing date for April 15th for this
So
one? Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Do we have a time on these, Millie?
The 15th, April 15th,
Yeah, all of them. Is there a time for the meetings?
7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Set a public hearing date for Mr. Pollard's application to amend the zoning ordinance for game rooms. What's your suggested date for
The
that?
15th as well.
April 15th?
Yes.
Can I have a motion to set that date for April 15th? Is there a second?
I have a second with a question. Will we be doing a meeting, a work session meeting, to discuss this also?
There is no plan to discuss this beforehand. And actually, you should really be doing that I think, at the public hearing. You'll be receiving something from the planning board regarding the application, whether it conforms with the comp plan, but
Is this because in this particular one, it's coming from an individual, not coming from one of our bodies? That makes
exactly.
sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's part of a process set by state law.
Yep. Thank you.
So April 15th for this one, can I have a motion? Second. Oh, we already did that. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
So both of those are the 15th, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Those two are the 15th. And then item 11, this is the land trust application to amend the ordinance for disc golf. What's your date for that?
This one is May 20th.
20th?
Right, and this one is another application that has come in from an outside party, the Black Island Land Trust. And they have waived the time frame on that, be at a request with planning board. They're going to have to meet with planning board again.
Okay, great. So May 20th. Can I have a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Item 12, review. Jet lag, guys, sorry. Review proposed changes to, regarding motor vehicles for hire. Amy, I don't know how, we haven't talked because I was in 14 different time zones away. But I don't know how you would like to proceed on this particular one. Do you want to proceed with you and James or James or?
I think we're going to let James walk you through what are some, I think, very straightforward changes
Yes.
to bring it into conformance. If you don't mind, James?
James, it's good
No,
to
not
see
at
you
all.
tonight.
Good to see you too. Basically, the changes were just to remove anything unrelated to taxi cabs from the ordinance as indicated by PUC in our conversation earlier this year. I think it's as basic as that. I think there was maybe an issue with the taximeter language because maybe all the taxis on Block Island don't have the taxi machine. I don't know exactly how to say it. But aside from that, I think this is a good start of the draft, and happy to take any questions or any input.
So I didn't have any questions because it was pretty straightforward, but I do have it's important to say procedurally, we would be scheduling this for a public hearing just like we did for the others. So there is no action being taken tonight on any change in ordinance. Just want to be clear about that.
So when we repeal an ordinance, we follow the same steps we would if we were creating an ordinance, correct?
Yeah.
Audience, unless you're waiting for.
Oh, come on, Brad.
James.
Keith, will we be setting a date for this? Or is it, or they'll come back?
On
How
our
does that work?
next agenda, we'll have an item setting a public hearing. Hi, Brad.
Just a question of if you're coming up with verbiage on change of the ordinance, will we have a chance to see that beforehand?
That's a big part of the reason we did this. If you go on Clerkbase and click on this, the language is there. Yes, yeah.
And it will be at the next meeting also.
Yeah, and at the next meeting, just to make it clear, just to repeat, we'll set a public hearing date. And clicking through on that on Clerkbase will also have the language. Are there any questions for James before we move on? What's that? No, we can't do that. Kathy, did you?
Why is there a revision?
Because the PUC has told the town that we are regulating things over which we do not have statutory authority. Yeah. David?
So I'm curious if this is going to be reviewed by the public, why it isn't in edit. We don't know what the changes are, simply put, because it's not, the edited version is not posted. Is that the intent that it should?
On Clerkbase.
It's on purpose.
Yeah.
Well,
The red line version is on.
I'm looking at
Clerkbase.
it.
You know?
Keep going. I expected to see a lot of red and I don't see any. I'll see you later then.
It's sort of yellow on my screen, which, oh no, it's in this light red. That wouldn't quite describe it.
It's red. Red, blue, and black. To be exact.
All right.
So I think just to reiterate, what's important for us tonight is to make sure the council is comfortable with these changes to bring forward to a public hearing.
Sure. Well, I mean, I can only speak for Keith Stover, and here's what I will say. The state has told us we can't have
There
this
you
in our ordinance.
And the opportunity for the public will come at the public hearing. Correct.
Correct. Let's look at the.
Hey, Judy, come on up. He won't be able to hear you away from the microphone as much.
James,
James, can you hear Judy?
Yes.
Judy Clark. In the ordinance where it says we have say over limited public motor vehicle, what is that? It's in our ordinance. It says taxis and limited public motor vehicles, PMV instead of public motor vehicle. It's a limited public motor vehicle. What is that?
A limited public motor vehicle
Yeah.
is a taxi cab.
So why would it have taxis and limited public motor vehicles?
I just used the definitions in the state law to make it consistent. I mean, I'm happy to discuss any, edits to make it more clear. But that's what I just basically cut and pasted that
Did,
to make it clear.
so you looked up the definition of it and that's what you came up with is it's a taxi?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All set. Pat, are you coming up or just being polite? Any other thoughts before we sort of say this is what we're likely to hear?
Anything else, Glenn?
Great. Shall we move on? People ready to move on to 13? Discuss and act on potential legislative and ordinance changes related to limousines, charter buses, black car services, courtesy vehicles.
Keith, and for the audience, I'm going to step out. I have a conflict here. I operate one of these courtesy vehicles.
So really fundamentally, this is a question about whether we want to go to our legislators at this point in the session and ask ask them for statutory changes. And given that our public hearing on these changes isn't going to happen until quite late in the session, I would say we're just going to have to see how this works. And if we need a statutory change, we'll approach the legislature in the fall. Yeah. I'm sorry. I wish I were sophisticated enough to be. Go ahead, Judy. Okay.
That doesn't exist in vocabulary, and he needs to know the history of the cabs in this town. It goes back to 1929.
Kathy, if you want to talk, you do need to come up to the microphone.
On the list, Judy Clark, on the list of vehicles that you're talking about regulating, the bus, the limousines, the black, whatever that is, black car, the last one, courtesy vehicle, is not really what we were talking about was the shuttles. A courtesy vehicle and a shuttle are two different things. Courtesy vehicle is a vehicle that is loaned out to a person without a driver when they're getting their car fixed, for example, and they need a vehicle to use while they're having that happen. But what we're talking about trying to regulate is the shuttles themselves. You could call it a courtesy shuttle, but I would feel more comfortable if that said you could keep courtesy vehicle, but I would also like to add shuttle.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to rush through this without people feeling heard, but we're going to be scheduling a public hearing on this stuff. So can we move on to the budget, guys? Are you comfortable with that? Yeah. Good, good. Anybody want to say anything? I don't want people to feel unheard, and I want to get Tristan. Tristan.
Because this is going to be brought up when we have our ordinance.
No.
All right, is it Mona or Amy? Mona and Amy?
Okay.
It's a team, but I'll start.
Are we on budget?
So you do have in front of the council, and then there are some copies up here as well, the proposed fiscal year 27 annual operating and capital budget. We will not go through it all tonight. Just going to do a little bit of receipt and give you a preview. I believe by tomorrow it will also be on Clerkbase for those who might want either electronic copies or some of the supplemental materials. But at a high level, the recommended budget is just over $21,750,833. That's an 8% increase overall. It incorporates a proposed tax increase of 2.5%. Most of that gap, when you think of how the budget grew from 26 to 27, is driven by last year's legislative increases in the state hotel tax, the short-term rental tax, the landing fee. And so there's a lot more revenue that's flowing through to the town for fiscal year 27. So the budget increases significantly more than the proposed tax levy. It does contemplate a 4% increase for the school and for community support organizations. For some of those community organizations, that is not the full amount of their request, but they'll have a chance to talk about that and what they're asking for and why. I also want to acknowledge that negotiations are ongoing with both of the town unions, the employees union and the police union. And so these are not final numbers in terms of employee compensation, but I do believe it leaves room to support our employees and work towards competitive compensation. It also fully funds health and retirement increases. We did have a surprise today. The health insurance numbers came in as we were wrapping things up. So those are not incorporated, but we'll be able to fit them in as we go through the process.
How do those numbers look?
Was it a pleasant surprise?
Yeah.
Was it a pleasant surprise?
It was higher than we had left room for. Mona, I don't remember if you know off the top of your head. Bear with me. It was either 12 or 14%, and we had expected 10.
And this, is this their guesstimate or is this their
No,
final
these are the
number?
final numbers. And so we'll be able to now work from real numbers.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't read and think at the
That's
same
that.
time.
No problem.
We're ballparking that.
Yeah, that's,
So there's a little bit of room, but that's enough that we can make it work, I think. One of the other things I'm actually very excited about is the capital budget, which for the first time looks at investing over $1 million in our capital program, which is a target that's been on my list for probably a decade. So that's a pretty significant jump from prior years. Some of that comes from outside funding, but the majority is funded through the tax base.
Yep.
But some, I think, needed investments at this point.
Sure.
And then looking forward, we'll get into the details starting next Wednesday at 3 o'clock and then again on Thursday at 7. So that gives everyone a little time to digest and prepare. Mona, anything you want to add at this point or? And that'll impact the school numbers a little bit as well.
Right.
So. Any other high level questions people have or additional information you might be looking for next week?
Yep.
I just, we had talked about, and I know we'll go into it in more detail about some work down at the transfer station. There was some hope that we might be able to capture some funds or a portion of it out of this year's budget. So not for discussion now, but if we could,
It's in there.
great,
Yeah.
super.
It's a big.
Thank you.
Oh, not that big, not the big number. This is, I think you're talking about the skinning of the
Yeah.
building. Yes, so that's there.
Yeah,
Oh,
and the thought I had on that, and we had talked about if, and I guess this would be a question for Mona down the line, if as we get closer, if there is any funds that may be left within the budget where a portion of it, whatever it might be, so that we could hopefully sooner than later lock in, because the price of steel and everything else, lock in that number. And then even if the work didn't happen till after July, but maybe help to offset that type of thing. So, thank you.
The only high level question I had is are there any new investments in people? Like, for example, something that I get a lot of feedback about, and I think we all do, is, where are we with the building, land use departments and that whole segment of town government? And, what are our thoughts, if not for this budget year, then budget years over time? Because it clearly is an area that's going to require some investment, and that runs from planning to building to, zoning to, it is, well, we just pick 4 public hearing dates, I think, 5 public hearing dates, and 4 of them were for zoning things. So, and I know from our conversations you're aware of it, but it is an area of emphasis from my perspective.
So in terms of what does it propose in terms
Yeah.
of staffing, there are a couple, I would say, smaller new positions. One is a continued expansion, something we've talked about, of the communications and alarm functions, which have been volunteer addressed in this community for decades. So continuing to bring that in-house,
Sure.
acknowledging those are services that we need to be paying for, and formalizing. So there's some of that. There is a coastal resilience position that really comes from 2 paths. Coastal resilience, the committee asked for an institutionalized position. We have the Orsted funding, which is for $50,000 a year for 5 years. So those 2 sort of
Sure.
merge into that proposal.
But that doesn't have a tax.
It doesn't have a tax impact, although the
Right.
request was for more than we have in funding. So
Sure.
if you were to fully fund the request, you could do that. Library requested an additional position that is not currently funded. So that's an open area where they've asked for additional staff. And then specific to building, at the moment, there is not an anticipated budget impact, but you'll see in the narrative that we are starting to talk about how to reconfigure that to have a more visible presence, a more engaged presence from the building official and the building inspectors, and how over the long term, we may be able to home grow some people to come up through the inspector process and get us back to some homegrown talent on that. And so not a budget impact, but it is sort of talked about as
In terms of that
strategic.
scope, I think it's important for the council
change.
to talk about where's the starting line.
Yep.
As we go through our deliberations, is that important enough that we try to figure out a way to start it sooner, for example,
And I like the concept.
I
that
do too,
We try to do
yeah.
homegrown eventually down, and no reflection on any contract services,
yeah.
but for long-term sustainability.
Yep.
Plus, I think, we'll probably get more for our money down the line that way. But the other area that, like Keith was saying earlier was, we're putting these ordinances in, we need to have a way that we do the enforcement on that. And, I know we can't have it both ways. We can't have the budget go down and another person, but at some point, all the ordinances you have, they don't mean anything if we don't have a way to enforce them. And I'm glad to see that's an area that you're focused on from that end of it. So.
Yeah. So I think those are what
Right.
we're talking about in
Right.
terms of
That's very
positions.
helpful.
Can I ask a question? Didn't we drop down a position in the library over the last several years? So if we do add one, are we just going back up to where we were before? Or am I,
I will have to look into that unless you know off the top of your head. I think
Each year. And then last year, this year was full year funding the assistant library director.
right, which was a new position? Not a new person, but a new position.
So prior years before that, I don't, but I can get specific details on that, looking back.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'll say from a bird's eye view, I appreciate the effort you're making to keep this increase the minimal we can, because, and I won't dwell on it, but we all know that with that Taylor Swift tax, a lot of our residents are gonna get hit with a hefty property tax. So, I appreciate the efforts that's trying to be made to be conscious of that.
Any other macro questions before we get into Brad? Brad, you had something you wanted to say?
It's nice to have this early.
This is more on behalf of some of the increases you're gonna be getting in some of the taxes, and we're currently having discussions with, from the sewer and water department, having this without legal counsel to come to the town, a little bit limited conversation with Mona at this point, but on some of those increases, getting something, a small percentage set aside for sewer and water, for some of the infrastructure that we have to go through that benefits the whole town in an effort to keep our water running and toilets flushing. So we're hoping to see if we can approach you on that as well.
Great, terrific. Thank you, Brad. Thanks for
Just to
bringing
make
it
you
up.
aware.
Jess? Bye, Judy. Thank you.
Hi, Jessica Willie, High Street. Is the calculation for the anticipated increase in the hotel, state aid for the hotel and tax, is that increase from the state or is that an in-house calculation? So they gave you those numbers as, thank you. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Glad Mona could answer that. I would have just said yes. Mona, we missed you last month, so please, we've been waiting eagerly.
Borrow that. So,
Mona, before we start,
yeah,
I know the kind of pressure that comes with this deadline on March 18th. And I think from everything I've looked at, it's really well done and coherent, and I appreciate your work.
Great.
I
Thank
know
you.
I know how much burden there is on you, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so to that note, I don't have the February financials polished enough
Well, take it
presentation.
back then.
The budget, the budget numbers that you see do show the financials through January 31st. And I can provide the February financials. I don't know if I'm allowed to provide those at, follow-up budget sessions. I could provide those.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
No
problem.
Mostly, when I look at these things for just sort of for what it's worth, as a not a great budget person, but I try to pay attention to the details, the things that stand out to you, because we trust you and look to you. If there's we had to spend an extra $15,000 on that's very helpful to know, both in terms of the moment and the trend, you know.
Absolutely. That'll be no problem to provide at our
Great.
next work session.
In the way you presented it last time, we highlighted out, that
Yeah.
worked out really well.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bill.
Okay, great.
Well, that was easy. Wait till next week. You want to do the legislative update, Amy?
Yes, but I want to focus on two of them.
Good.
And then whatever you all want
We're-
to talk about.
We're all in on that.
Okay. The first, in terms of legislative adjacent at this point, is the non-owner occupied property tax.
Yes.
I did share with all of you the FAQs that Division of
Yes.
Taxation put out. They do have a new website for anyone who's really invested and wants to get into the details. But we're starting to see more formal communication from them about that program. The official rulemaking has not happened. When it does, there'll be a hearing process for that I suspect many of the communities will be engaged in. But with those FAQs, you really got that first look at what implementation is going to look like.
Can I ask you a technical question?
You can try.
Would you mind resending that?
Sure.
If only to me, because as I told you and Millie, I had this weird thing when I was away that Microsoft wouldn't let me log in, and I feel like there were a chunk of emails that somehow didn't make it to me or I missed. If you
And
wouldn't mind.
from
That's-
from anyone in the public too, the Division
Yeah,
of Taxation
sure.
website has all of that information, including the FAQs, so the public can go look.
So Amy, you said there's going to be a hearing to
Well,
solidify, how does that, I'm not familiar with how that works.
there will be official rulemaking that taxation has to go through to set their regulations about how this is going to work. And that rulemaking requires public comment periods. And so we're watching that. The communities are watching that fairly closely to make sure everything on the implementation is up and up.
So is this a guide then until the rulemaking is finalized?
Presumably there'll be an alignment, but interesting that that came out before the actual regulations.
So these aren't based on regulations. This is what their anticipation of the regulations.
Yes.
If passed would be this.
Yeah.
And and it really is the format. So their rules have to do more with, the collection, interpretation, how many days and so forth, not the actual dollar figure amount. That's already set.
Yeah, nor with whether or not it makes sense, you know?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Right.
not about the underlying.
Well, you can, the day could, some things could be subjective as
Right.
trying to
Yeah, yeah.
define.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
does my 183 days include bed and breakfast days or whatever it might be. That is, but the fact is the 5,000 on every million
Is non-negotiable. That is
not
statute.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And this would, I think this would be good if the paper had, hopefully, I know that's not for us, but the paper print this out because answers a lot of the questions, at least what we think they'll be. Is there anything on this that, as far as the and I know we just got it, look at it, that when that hearing does come up, is there, I think would have to say, I don't know how these definitions come about or if we have opposition. We have opposition to the bill in general, but from the implementation of it or the what do you call it, if we have a.
I haven't honestly looked at it with that eye specifically. There are
Right.
two things that were clarified in those FAQs for me that are red flags. One is confirmation that short-term rentals are a valid exemption, which to me, from a policy perspective, was a surprising disconnect. If you're trying to promote housing
Yeah.
and occupancy, that didn't seem consistent to me.
Yeah.
And that's something we've heard some of the legislators be concerned about
Yeah.
in terms of a disconnect. The other is the seasonal houses. So my house is not winterized. I can't occupy it. Nobody can occupy it in the winter. Why am I not exempt? And again, we've heard the legislators be concerned about that.
Interesting.
So it did confirm those two things. And those-
Confirmed it that,
That
not in a
the-
good way, I'm not talked
Yeah,
about, but it's
As valid-
confirmed out, I think.
that you may see some action on in terms of small tweaks to the legislation, but I haven't really looked at the technical aspects yet.
So I think it would be worth it for all of us to take a deep dive in this and then, when that hearing does come up, utilize obviously May 4th group or whatever, and, from that end of it.
Even in advance, each of us reads that with our own unique perspective. I'm happy to gather
everything.
information because there is a pretty good circle right now
And if their
amongst the
rulemaking,
communities.
if their rulemaking processes like others I've been involved in, they really like extensive written.
I also would like to see that. I like it clearly defined out because while we talked about if it was the nightly rentals or whatever it might be, it's not affecting it goes against the spirit of what it is. At this point, I don't really care about the spirit. I care about how it affects people who own homes on the island. So if there's a loophole, a workaround that someone can do by renting their house out legally, I want to make sure the public's aware of that.
Okay.
Because like I said, because I think the tax is extremely unfair. As we all talked about from there. So I appreciate this and I think that's, I think that input for that hearing will be beneficial.
So the other one I wanted to talk about, or at least highlight for you, is the last on the list, the Blue Bond House Bill 8151. This is a request of Tina Spears, who is a sponsor of this bill, and asked if the council would consider a supporting resolution. That is obviously up to you. It is a bond that would be issued to support the resilient roadie plan that came before this. So it's a continuation of those resiliency efforts that she's been a big sponsor of.
We're going to be looking for dough, so.
Amy, going back on the non-owner occupied tax, I know we're gonna have a resolution down below. Can you give an update to that group, collective group that, or do you want to do that in your manager's report?
So we're continuing to meet and continuing to get some of those other communities aware of their own exposure, if you will, showing them how to do the math and calculate what their residents might be paying. You know, there's still an acknowledgement of the political challenge of coming out in opposition for the legislators, and how difficult that is for them. But we're continuing to work
It's a
from
hard
the
job.
city and town perspective. And, you know, like I think I mentioned last time, there is starting to be some traction on the fundamental philosophical opposition to the state being involved in property taxes. That is starting to resonate with some people, some legislators. It's still unclear exactly what the path forward is going to look like, though.
Are there any other resolutions in other towns that you're aware of that they're taking?
Not yet. We're the first ones. And we were the only ones last year. As these other communities start to identify how much this impacts their taxpayers, they are talking about how do we signal to our community that this is a problem and that we are opposed to it. So I've been sharing our language and inviting them to pass similar resolutions to demonstrate their opposition to the program.
Are you surprised at how?
I am. I've
Okay.
been surprised for a year
I was wondering
now.
if it's just me. I'm like surprised that it hasn't, because we're not alone in this, you know, we're carrying the
know.
brunt, we're not alone. And I think personally, what's gonna happen is once, you know, someone gets a bill for $10,000 property tax, that's when the phones are gonna start ringing. I
Yeah, I
think
guess
we're
you're
headed
right.
from there. And I'm not talking just about here. I'm talking about
Yeah.
like in Little Compton, Jamestown, South Kingston. If you own a home in Great Island over there, they're selling for 1.9. And if you're not at the whole time, so I think maybe that's where that traction will pick up.
But you know, starting a year, I mean, we've been talking about this for probably over
year.
a year.
Mm.
I couldn't get over last year how there was just absolutely no conversation with real estate agents statewide. And people who were concerned about it being the state meddling in property tax, crickets. Nobody seemed to get it. But
It's a.
They will come once tax bills go out, they'll get it.
Yeah,
And they'll get it fast.
yeah.
But once the state is into your property tax, like what's the next? There's no threshold.
Exactly.
No.
They can leverage it for something else, you know,
Well,
so.
frankly, given the lack of opposition, they could double it. And, you know, it's.
Well, philosophically, you're right. Philosophically, the concept is that's a whole nother issue. There's the equity and fairness to what it is, but just the philosophical that, you know, that the state's collecting the property tax, you know, from that end of it. And the bigger problem is, I don't want to dwell on this because we've talked about enough, is that the state is headed down a road that's going to be some serious financial crisis that we're going to have. Money's going to be tight over the next several years from the Washington Bridge with the deficit they're going to have. And when that happens, you start looking for different places. And unfortunately, you know, you want this faucet to not be one that they want to tap into.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And what's to prevent them from expanding this to everybody?
Right.
Oh, no question about it.
Yeah.
Statewide property tax.
That was Amy's position in the beginning, was the principle of it and
Yeah.
the precedent setting.
It's a
Absolutely.
great way to get money.
We use it. I mean.
And the big, and I'll end it with this, and the big thing is, remember, our property values double, our mill rate goes in half, your tax stays the same, our property values double here. This rate is fixed, that means your tax doubles. So if your property was 2 million, you would have been paying 5,000. Now, if it jumps up another million, you'll pay 10,000.
Yeah.
So there's no mill rate attached to it,
Yeah.
so. But I've talked it to death, so.
No,
I'll move on.
I think it's worth talking about, if only because it provides the five of us with some moments of therapy, because it's so maddening.
I think the problem is that Taylor
Crazy.
Swift thing, the problem is it's affecting someone like Amy, someone like myself, or, people that just regular work, people that happen to have a home or a vacation, whatever, it's affecting those people.
Yeah,
And I think from the bird's eye view, it's like, okay, it's just the super wealthy, it's
Yeah.
okay, so.
Yeah.
anyways.
Can I change topics and ask about the driver's education and the tick-borne illness?
Driver's education is working its way through. I did talk to Jeff and Rick about that recently. And so they have our resolution in support, and we'll deploy that as needed. They'll let us know if there's a hearing that somebody can be in attendance for. Tick-borne illness, I don't have any updates today.
Okay.
Amy, back to that blue bond that you had mentioned, is that in support of the state taking a bond out? I'm
Yeah, so this is a proposed bond measure for the state to issue up to $100 million in support of Rhode Island climate resiliency
it's
projects.
basically to put it on the ballot,
Yep.
right?
I assume it's a yes.
I think they all have to.
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
so
it is a referendum. Sorry, I was looking for that word. Thank you. Yes.
And is there any update on the highway garage?
Only that I'm asking you to pass a resolution to make some noise.
Okay. I just want to say, I, for one, am shocked that it didn't fall down in that storm. I don't know if anybody else is, but thought for sure that was going to be.
Yeah. We're lucky. Jersey barriers provide providing the infrastructure there. They're working out. Exactly.
So since we're going down the list, Amy, you said you had the two you talked about, the moped license, it's working its way through its path, is that? Oh, well, you're talking about receive legislative updates, right?
Yes, moped license retirement is still at the beginning of its path.
Okay.
They have the proposed legislation and they have our resolution. It hasn't been scheduled for anything.
Okay, and then because you have it listed here on which Molly just brought up, on the highway garage, that's really not a legislative, anything we put in yet. You're talking about a resolution to do.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else on the updates before we move to the resolutions?
No, I don't think so.
All right, first we have the DOT resolution.
Yeah, I just want to talk about can you just give a quick synopsis on the resolution itself, Amy?
Sure, it walks through some of the history.
Yeah.
For those particularly outside parties who don't know the relationship. Confirms the state's contractual obligation for capital improvements for their facility. Indicates that we like this relationship. We think in general, operational works well, but they need to meet their standards, and ultimately asks the legislature to enact legislation upholding the state's requirement and identifying funding to support it for the repair and replacement of the Ocean Avenue garage.
So in the event we pass this resolution, it goes through as a bill, correct?
Mhm.
And if that bill dies in committee, doesn't go anywhere, is that gonna leave a door out for the registry saying, hey, well, it didn't get passed through?
But it already hasn't been passed through. So
Right, in other words, is it gonna, is it gonna move it from the DOT's thing to the back burner if it didn't go through legislation? I wouldn't think it would, but I just want to double check, you know what I'm
I
saying?
get what you're asking.
Yeah, because they turn around and say, well, listen, it went through, it's only sat in committee, so this isn't a priority, you know, from,
Yeah, the legislature essentially indicated to us that they don't give a damn about your highway. garage.
right.
by the way, it's not our highway garage.
I know.
If we're going to practice language, it is their highway garage.
Yes.
I-
Yes.
And
I see your concern, and that's really the question that the council needs to answer for
I'm
themselves.
sort of at a point on this where I sort of want to throw the China.
I'll tell you, I'm for as of July. If, you know, we have that dead date, drop dead date, whatever it is, if they don't do
Yeah.
it, then we
Yeah.
tell, and we should put on notification, that's what we're going to do, because,
We've already put them on notice.
okay, so we told them as of whatever the date is, we are going, not we may, we are going to use our option to withdraw from the contract.
So we haven't exercised the option. We've identified that we will if we haven't taken the next step, which I think has to happen after the legislative session.
The flip side of your question is if they want to sort of act in bad faith and say, well, the committee never reported your bill out,
Right.
they would also probably say, well, you never even asked the legislature for the money.
But that's not
You
for
know-
us
you
to
know,
do. It's not our building to do it,
But
though.
I mean, I guess my point is they can
Yeah,
make
no,
any
yeah.
argument that they want.
Either way, they're not delivering.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's a lot of downside.
Yeah, I'm not against it. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate to vet it through.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, to make sure.
Absolutely.
But, so then the flip side, we put this through, but the bottom line, I think we're to the point where we have to play the card of, guess what? You're gonna have to take care of the roads and you come to it, Swan and see. And I think that as that gets closer, we need to make that abundantly clear. Maybe have a meeting, direct them and say, hey, look, this is what's happening. And if it means that there's some, you know, PR that goes along with it, which isn't the best, you know, unfortunately, if that's what it takes to get everyone at the table, then so be it.
Hey,
I mean,
I feel the same way about the tick-borne stuff.
Right.
I wonder whether we should be bombarding the Globe reporters with emails saying, we got an
Right.
emergency out here. Similar kind of thing.
Right.
There's nothing that makes you feel forgotten like these kinds of things. You know, like the end of the tail of the dog.
so where is the last communications you have, Amy, with the DOT on the garage? Where does that all stand?
A series of emails and calls.
With,
I'm reluctant to put anybody out on the line because that makes it hard for me to work with them.
sure,
But where they have stepped over this question about the garage specifically, they've answered questions about the MOA and the our next steps on the transportation system. Other issues that we're working on, some things they're reviewing to get engineering going on our other projects, and this question is sidestepped over and over and over. So
then we're at the end of the line.
that's,
That's simple as that.
yep.
This resolution is really well done. And kinder and kind. I think it's kind.
Is it too kind or is it over?
I don't think it's too kind. I think you know, Amy has a sense of what tools she needs. So I'm in. I think by the fact that we're doing it, I think it demonstrates that this is a major problem.
Sure.
You know?
But I think, Amy, as we have those other conversations about the, you know, the other issues that they're responding to you on,
Mhm.
I think there's gonna be a time, as I listen, there's really no sense in having much more talk on these because this is, there's no discussion to have because you're gonna have the contract yourself. So I think it's gonna take that. Otherwise, I think it's gonna take that extent to say, oh, no, the brakes are going, you're not responding as the brakes are going on. And I'll leave that to you, but I think we're at that point. You know what I mean? We're done. So,
I'm happy to have feedback that makes this more aggressive. I'm open to that.
good.
You know, I'm good. And if, you know, you're the drafter and you're comfortable with it, then I support it. I'm just sort of, I think you hear it from us virtually every week, right? People are pretty honked off about this. And you are too, you know, it's not unique to us. But it does get to a point, as Bill's pointing out, where it's just sort of like, then you have at it. We don't have a contract anymore. Have fun making ferry reservations for the, you know, good luck.
Housing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, and this is also, we spoke about this. This was the avenue we were going to do. We were going to negotiate.
Yep.
And this is, here we
Yeah.
are at this point.
Yep.
So let's keep
Yep.
doing it.
So can we have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
So Amy, you obviously have our full support, to do what you need to do. I don't want to say to play hardball, but to move it to that next, the next level.
All right, opposing statewide non-owner occupied property tax.
You know, I can't believe we're the only town on this, but I think that was, should we pass this, I think we should ask for the other municipalities if they would, sign on, or however that works, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, great. Well, I would, if the rest of the council is comfortable the way it's
Yes.
written, I would make a motion that we, pass a resolution as presented.
I'll second it.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. And
The next one is less specific to us, but I would like to get on other people's bandwagons. And there was actually a hearing yesterday. I don't know how it went, but this increases the prevailing wage threshold in Rhode Island from $1,000, which is one of those ridiculous levels that nobody is complying with. Nobody is complying with that. It has never been changed. It shifts it to $100,000. In reality, every single one of our projects meets prevailing wage thresholds because of the level of wages out here. What it does do is it gives us more flexibility because not all of our contractors, most of our contractors are not interested in the documentation required to meet prevailing wage. So they're paying it. The documentation's not worth the headache. This opens up a lot more potential avenues for us in terms of who may be willing to do work for the town.
What's the level they want to raise it to?
It changes it to $100,000, so it's true public works type projects.
I mean, I happen to think there's a really good rationale for a prevailing wage. I really do. I feel pretty strongly about that. But $1,000.
The problem though is, I mean, philosophically for the payment of it, I do, but
Yeah.
it adds to that project because
It
if I
does.
have to do all the record keeping, you lose people that don't want to deal with that headache.
Yeah.
And then the ones that do, they usually have to be big enough that they're incurring the expense
Yep,
of that. So that drives up the
Yeah.
project also.
absolutely. Can I have a motion to approve this? Second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
Instead of-
Bulkhead?
Okay. So we asked to talk about this a little bit more in detail. I've given you a set of the preliminary plans that the engineer put together. And I believe I provided both the estimate, which is about 1.2 when you add in contingencies and things like that, and a summary of the narrative that we are likely going to use to see if this qualifies for road restore funding, which would cover about a third of the cost. That is one avenue that we think is viable for outside funding for this project. Some of the goals are really to improve access with some of these major public works projects coming forward. The ability to move materials for road projects, school construction, public safety building, and West Beach, as well as everything that comes after that, in terms of being able to aggregate large shipments of materials to get them when we need them. It also then, once we have it, provides a little bit of diversity if there were storms, disaster, whatever might happen in a major event. It's part of our hazard mitigation plan to have more opportunity to bring materials to the island, particularly in disaster situations. So if something were to happen to the interstate docks or other areas where you could offload equipment, it's another avenue for that. We would likely enable private use, although that's not a primary driver. It just becomes another revenue recapture to the extent that we can facilitate that easily. Right now, obviously, we do bring barges into Old Harbor and have a somewhat convoluted, inefficient, and dangerous offload process. It also causes a lot of damage to the dock. Kate can attest to that. So again, it's meant to alleviate some of those factors that we're already sort of working around. The question isn't necessarily in front of you for funding at the moment, but I'm happy to take questions back to Mike, who couldn't be with us tonight, or Jim, or if there's additional information you all want to understand. I think at the moment we're waiting then to hear back from Road Restore in order to see what our next steps might be. It's an unusual project for them. They weren't really prepared to talk about whether it fits into their criteria or not. But to the extent that it facilitates all other transportation projects on the island, they're willing to talk about it. So.
All right, the plan is just a typical style ramp. I guess on the narrative portion, it fits in with the resiliency?
It does, yeah.
So there may be some grant opportunity
There may be, yes.
for applications for that.
Mhm.
Would we lose dockage?
That will be an operational question about whether we choose to prioritize one service over another, but you should not lose dockage when it's not in use.
How would boats tie up if there's, are you saying that would
I think
tie
you
up
can
to
go,
the dock?
I think you can go across, but Kate, I don't know if you're prepared to answer that. Yeah.
The drawing is, I mean, the engineer is just a typical style ramp in his plan.
Right.
So, and I'm sure that they took into account different size vessels, I would imagine. And
It's not
the only thing I didn't see.
18.6, I think is the width.
And not projecting out past the.
It's
original.
not projecting out, is my understanding. No.
It has to go over the dock unless you're getting rid of the dock.
I believe there's a section of the dock that comes out. Yeah.
Changing basically the wood decking for steel style ramp.
Yep.
Oh, having wood decking over the steel ramp when not in use.
When not in use.
Nice concept. Not so industrial if the project happened.
I think that the numbers were a little low. Looking at Jim's numbers, and also I didn't see, based on, I put bids out on these docks. And then also I didn't see anything in there for the, what would operate the ramp itself. So there was an area for where there would be a housing for whatever it might be, but for whether it be the motor or whatever it would be from that end of it. The cost of the, which we can talk on it later, but I didn't see that number included in it, so.
The cost or see it on the plans?
Mechanicals, he's speaking of actually.
Yeah,
operating.
it was the opposite, exactly. So, and like I said, not that it's need to dissect it, but I just think The number is when I've done these, and then whether you're gonna actually going out to bid, particularly if we are able to obtain with any federal money, you'd be going by, to give you an example.
Yeah.
Steel was 22,000 as opposed to 6,000 because of Buy America changes the numbers big time on it. But those can be refined if this becomes more of a reality at that end of it.
Yeah.
But I also like to know how much material we actually bring, so our cost spending for what we get on a return. And I saw, when you saw the number, which was the $20,000 savings, but that's assuming you're bringing that full amount. It's not $20,000 a year because we're not necessarily bringing a full barge load that we're taking for the highways department.
No, those are usually aggregated, right? Those
Right.
trips.
And it's also not just what we're spending, but what this gives us the opportunity to do
Right.
too.
See, I think the place where this belongs is in New Harbor, if we ever had that ability, because that gives us a true, if the old harbor is shut down, we have a way to get into Old Harbor, we have a workaround and so forth, but we don't have it in New Harbor. In New Harbor, where if we were to lose Old Harbor, New Harbor would be a place where we would be able to utilize to bring something in from that end of it.
That's our second location for diversification,
Yeah.
but we don't have the ability to execute on that right now.
Right.
So.
Thank you, Amy.
Sure.
You want to do your
I had,
high-level report? We've almost kind of done a lot of your report.
We've done a lot.
I have.
Yeah, but I'll actually start back at the beginning of the meeting and the memo with storm
Yeah.
follow-up. An interesting thing happened when we tried to put together preliminary damage assessments and work through all that paperwork with EMA, which is we have very few reportable expenses. And that came down to a lot of our
Could use a new Old Harbor bulkhead.
a lot of our
Really got damaged.
a lot of our work, yes, we had some overtime, but a lot of our work was actually done by our salaried employees in terms of that 48-hour commitment of
Yeah.
level of effort. And so those go undocumented and we don't want them to go unacknowledged. So, the chief's in the room and Kate's here, but Mike, Dylan, some of those other employees who just had that level of commitment. And then some of our contractors who, yes, technically submitted bills, but it doesn't feel like those represent the full scope of the effort that they put in. And so I think there are a couple who didn't even put in bills. As Dick was saying, that level of community engagement and the willingness for everyone to step forward when it comes to the accounting side leaves us a little short. So I didn't want it to go unsaid. That it was really everybody pitching in and getting that job done. And so thank you. And I wanted to make sure you knew that.
But some of the overtime, is that?
What we have documented, yes, we've submitted.
Right, but it's a small number.
It's a small number relative to the level of effort we knew everybody put in. So. Rural transformation, just a little bit of a mini update there. So the state has been notified that their grant has been awarded. They had revised their submittal. And so they have that notice of award from the feds. It has not passed down to us yet in a documented form. So we know that for year one, we submitted a little bit under $1 million between the rescue squad and the Department of Human Services. Block Island Health Services put their own request in. And our understanding is that most of that $1 million that we submitted has been approved, but we don't have that on paper yet. So we're still waiting for that documentation to come through. It's not incorporated in the budget, but obviously that's programming that we'll implement as soon as we have a notice of award. And in terms of structure, we are going to be a sub-grantee under Block Island Health Services. And so that's going to flow to them and then down to us. And that's sort of non-negotiable. That's set at the state level by Department of Health. But just wanted to give you an update on where that is.
Were these, are these matching grants, outright
No.
grants?
They are outright grants.
This is the thing they did in that
Right.
big bill. They slashed rural health spending, but they established this grant program for rural communities.
So on some of the things that spin off, with the effort of the medical center was you said the rescue squad,
Yes.
and they were looking for,
They had between $400,000 and $500,000 of equipment, everything from stretchers
Sure.
to training dummies to I believe there was a new vehicle in there. And so again, I don't know exactly which things have been approved. We'll get that list eventually.
in the fire
And then-
department. The only reason I say, because I know they had another truck or something down the line and so forth. Is it
So it will, for the rescue, take something off of that long-term capital plan.
great?
Fire was not eligible. Everything there is focused on rescue. And then Human Services has a fair amount of programming. You've heard Allison talk about the PACE program. There are aspects of that will be implemented. I believe there might be another vehicle in that as well. So we'll share those details when they.
And are most of these funds, are these recurring or they're just
No.
one?
They are one time. They may support a program deployment, but Health Services, any other recipient needed to document and commit to self-funding after that. And so that's why it's a lot more hard assets rather than personnel or anything that we need to sustain afterwards.
Great.
So.
The school was part of that application as well. Were there requests?
Their requests were integrated with Health Services a little bit. So
Okay.
again, I'm sorry, with Human Services, exactly which parts of that, I can't say.
Okay.
In the time frame we're hoping to hear on paper?
I would hope in the next 3 months.
Does it seem how it coincided
Yeah.
with your budget? That's all.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, with grant funds,
Sure.
we can spend them and we just don't have enough visibility to plug in
Understand.
X, Y, and Z. Let's see. I think that was the majority of what I wanted to hit on. I'm happy to take questions. With the harbor master here, I'm sure some of you have seen the $2,500 donation from the Bogemp Fund. So it's always exciting to have that supporting the Upweller project. The rest of that cost will come out of the Shellfish budget at the moment. So
It always funds that, correct? It's the fundraiser. For Mr. Gimp, that goes towards the self.
They donate to,
Oh, okay.
do scholarships.
It's great stuff.
Amy, on the state of emergency, so when the governor declares, so when there is extra expenses, how does that, is it just simply submit the bill or is it?
no, it's not that simple. And Bill can correct me as we go through this. So the first thing we did was initial damage assessments, and that helps the state decide whether they are meeting the thresholds, which is a combination of actual snowfall, timing, and cost. There might be a couple other factors in there. But basically it's not a yes, no, it's a confluence of events. And so we have a call, I think Friday with Rhode Island EMA to move to the next step, which is the preliminary damage assessment. Again, whether the state meets that threshold and then how it trickles down to the communities. We're preparing all our documentation for our expenses. My guess is that other communities, from what I've heard, have much higher costs. And so we probably will meet at least the cost and snow thresholds. Whether we meet the others, I can't say. And we may benefit from everybody else having met that criteria. Because as you said, it was a statewide declaration. Bill, anything you'd add to that?
No, it's the state is the one that has to submit it, and they don't, just because the governor declares it, that's one aspect, like Amy said, and all these other things have to check off in order for it to meet the qualification to go up, and then at that point, decisions made.
And even then, there's a pretty long lag I think the last snow event that we actually did get federal funding for, it was a couple of years before we saw that actually flow back. But
You look at a city, like I was having dinner with my daughter last night who lives in Providence. The stuff that they had to do in Providence, that was really expensive, I'm sure. And to wait 2 years when you're a city like that that's a big burden.
Amy, I had a couple of quick things. One, the transfer station, but we already discussed that. I appreciate you filling some up on that. And like I said, if we can monitor that, and like I said, just so maybe we can get that rolling sooner than later. Do we have any update on the repeaters?
we do. So we went out to bid. We did not receive any bids, which enabled us to then negotiate with a non-respondent who had an alternative proposal and some slightly different ideas than what we had asked for. And so we are in those conversations right now about what other approaches they may take. And so that's sort of ongoing, I would say, but it's nice now to have a partner that we can talk to and provide a back and forth.
We're
with.
making progress on.
We are making progress.
And we still have funds that have been earmarked and so forth,
Yes.
right? And then the other two, three things real quick. One is the fire bond.
I don't have any updates on that.
Okay. We're not looking at this budget for either the school or the fire bond at the town financial
Financial
meeting for.
No, we're
might
not.
be informational, but nothing for funding wise.
For the school, they may be considering using that time of having everybody in the room to do a brief update.
Yep.
But their timing aligns with a fall submission of the stage 2 application. And so we would be looking at a special financial meeting that aligned more closely with that. They're not going to be ready for May.
Will we be looking to do both at once? The fire and the fire bond and the school, or it's too early to tell yet?
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. And then the only last thing I had was the new pumper truck that's coming. Can you fill us in? Like
Sure. So I have conversations going at this point with both the sewer department, who are, I don't want to get ahead of them, but open to these conversations. And also with RIAC, who were silent for a long time, but now are open to at least having these conversations, and they haven't committed to anything, but they haven't stopped talking either. And with them, both things are back on the table. The idea of either temporary shelter for the pump truck or housing the more permanent facility, which again is still a long shot, but again, they haven't shut down that conversation yet.
Good.
So.
I only bring it up because the truck is, I think it's rolling along its assembly line.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm actually hoping to do some stomping around in the field with sewer next week. We were sort of waiting for the snow to melt a little.
Great. Thank you.
Great stuff. Look at us doing stuff. Hot dogs. Anything to for future?
I think we have a pretty busy.
Yes, indeed.
Next.
I have a motion to adjourn on that note. Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I am so ready.
It just turned